The Hu family severed the tendons in Murong Qing Yi's hands, destroying the lifelong dream he had worked toward as a surgeon. They framed him and sent him to prison for 3 years, and even after his release, they forced him to marry Hu Minxian, the daughter of his enemy. The audience was furious. The comments were flooded with people declaring that the entire Hu family deserved a terrible end. But then came the scene in which Murong Qing Yi, Qing Yi's elder brother, was murdered. Murong Qing Yi clutched his brother's hand as it slowly turned cold and sat alone in the mourning hall for the entire night. The following morning, Fang Mulan entered with a bowl of porridge. Qing Yi suddenly seized her wrist and demanded, "Who exactly are you?" Ren Su Su finally cast aside her disguise. "The Hu family, the Li family, and your Murong family were all responsible for burning my family to death." Only then did the truth become clear. The Hu family was an exposed blade. It cut Qing Yi until he was covered in blood, but at least he knew where the pain came from. Murong Qing Yi, however, was a hidden trap. Every act of brotherly protection he offered with a gentle smile became another step leading Qing Yi toward destruction. The statement, Murong Qing Yi never realized that the most dangerous person beside him was not the Hu family but his elder brother, contains 3 layers of meaning. On the surface, it asks who directly harmed him. Beneath that, it asks who possessed both the power and motive to harm him. At its deepest level, it reveals that blood ties and trust can become the sharpest weapons of all. The Hu family's blades struck in plain sight. The Hu family's cruelty must first be laid bare, because they were the enemies everyone immediately recognized. Their hostility toward Murong Qing Yi was direct and easy to understand. Their first blow was severing the tendons in his hands. That single act destroyed the foundation of his career as a surgeon. After Hu Mingxi died under mysterious circumstances, all the evidence pointed toward Ren Su Su, while Qing Yi was mistakenly identified as her accomplice. The Hu family showed no mercy. During his 3 years in prison, they deliberately crippled both of his hands, personally destroying his lifelong dream of becoming a surgeon. Their second blow was framing him and imprisoning him for 3 years. To protect its own interests and secure military supplies from the Hu family, the Murong family abandoned Qing Yi without hesitation. They allowed the Hu family to convict him for a crime he had not committed. He spent 3 years in darkness, broken both physically and emotionally. Their third blow was forcing him into marriage. After surviving prison and returning home, Qing Yi was once again treated as a bargaining chip. To obtain military resources and political power, the Murong family forced him into a marriage alliance with the Hu family. Worse still, the woman chosen for him was Hu Minxian, the daughter of the very family he hated. Yet every attack from the Hu family was made openly. Qing Yi knew they wanted him dead, and they knew he hated them. Strangely, that kind of enemy relationship was almost clean. Qing Yi never lowered his guard around them. When an old Hu family servant came to identify someone, Qing Yi immediately pulled Susu toward him and warned her, "You're already facing death, yet you still refuse to admit it." When Hu Minxian mocked him to his face, Susu stepped forward to answer for him. Although both women had their own hidden motives, the confrontation perfectly captured the dangerous tension between love and hatred. People remain vigilant around obvious enemies. But in front of family, they lower their defenses. That was what made Murong Qing Yi truly frightening. He never needed to attack Qing Yi directly. All he needed to do was help him. Murong Qing Yi was Qing Yi's only source of warmth in the Murong family. To understand why Qing Yi was the more dangerous person, one must first understand how deeply Qing Yi depended on him. Qing Yi had been mistakenly sent to the Li family as a child. He grew up enduring beatings, insults, and cold leftovers. At the age of 11, he ran away and was rescued by Ren Su Su. When he finally returned to the Murong family and reclaimed his identity, his father, Murong Feng, had already died. His mother, Qing Jinji, blamed Qing Yi for the loss of her husband and treated him with icy hostility. Before long, she sent him abroad. In that enormous household, the only person who ever gave Qing Yi any sense of familial warmth was his elder brother, Murong Qing Yi. When Qing Yi skipped school, got into fights, or caused trouble as a child, Qing Yu helped hide it from their mother. When Qing Yu wanted to study medicine, Qing Yu supported him. Becoming the finest surgeon in Shanghai was Qing Yu's greatest dream. After Qing Yu was released from prison and Cheng Jinji forced him to marry Hu Minxian, Qing Yu told him, "If you do not want this marriage, I can send you away. You can return to England and continue studying medicine." Qing Yu never told his brother that the tendons in his hands had already been severed. He would never hold a surgical knife again. Within the vast Murong residence, Qing Yu was the only person who made Qing Yu feel that he still had a family, even if that warmth was faint and fleeting. Because of this, Qing Yu trusted his brother without reservation. His trust ran so deeply that when Susu returned to the Murong family under the identity of Fong Mulan and became Qing Yu's fiancée, Qing Yu immediately recognized her. He tried to tell his brother the truth, but Qing Yu interrupted him before he could finish. Qing Yu managed to give only one warning. Fong Mulan is dangerous. She is not as simple as she appears. He trusted his brother. Therefore, even after realizing that his future sister-in-law was hiding something, he chose to remain silent in front of Qing Yu. That decision proved fatal. The hidden current beneath Qing Yu's protection. A theory has recently spread among viewers. The suffering Qing Yu endured during those 3 years was not caused by the Hor family alone. His closest and most trusted brother, Murong Qing Yi, may have personally delivered him into their hands as a scapegoat. There are several layers to this theory. The first concerns the banquet at Yuyuan Garden. Hu Mingxi held a banquet at Yuyuan Garden in the northern district. It was Qing Yu who invited Qing Yu to attend, and Qing Yu brought Ren Su Su along with him. During the banquet, Susu found an opportunity to kill Hu Mingxi. Afterward, she disappeared, leaving Qing Yu behind to be caught by the Hor family. The circumstances were almost too convenient. Had Qing Yu not invited him, and had Qing Yu not brought Susu, he would never have been present when Hu Mingxi died. Yet his presence at the scene became the strongest evidence the Hor family used against him. The second layer is Qing Yu's failure to protect him. The Hor family gave Qing Yu 3 days to surrender the killer. He hurried to the house Susu had rented, only to discover that the door was locked. The landlord told him that she had moved away nearly half a month earlier, without even collecting her deposit. At that moment, the Murong family chose to abandon Qing Yu so they could secure weapons and strengthen their relationship with the Hor family. Cheng Jinji and Qing Yu both accepted that decision. While Qing Yu spent 3 years in prison with his hands destroyed, what was his brother doing? Qing Yu remained safely inside the Murong residence as the respected eldest son, preparing to inherit the family. The third layer came after Qing Yu's release. Qing Yu appeared to offer him a choice. "If you do not agree to this marriage, I will help you leave so you can continue being a doctor." The words sounded considerate, but in reality, they placed Qing Yu over a fire. His hands had already been crippled. He could no longer practice medicine. Leaving the Murong family would leave him with nowhere to go and no way to survive. The choice to leave was therefore an illusion. The only real path Qing Yu offered was marriage to Hu Minxian. Through words spoken for his own good, Qing Yu completed his second betrayal of his younger brother. The fourth layer was Qing Yu's engagement. Qing Yu never imagined that 3 years later, Susu would return under the name Fong Mulan and become his brother's fiancé. As the eldest son of the Murong family, Qing Yu could not enter an engagement casually. Such an arrangement required the family's approval. This meant that Qing Yu personally brought the most dangerous person in Qing Yu's life, Ren Su Su, disguised as Fong Mulan, into the Murong household. At the engagement banquet, Qing Yu looked up and saw Fong Mulan's face. "She came back to life and I lost my mind." That line immediately captured the audience's attention. Qing Yu's expression changed on the spot. He tried to reveal Susu's identity, but Qing Yu interrupted him. That interruption became one of the most unsettling moments in the entire drama. Did Qing Yu interrupt because he did not believe his brother? Or because he did not want Qing Yu to continue speaking? The Hor family was an exposed blade, but Qing Yu was a blunt one. Some viewers may object. Wasn't Murong Qing Yi later murdered through a plot arranged by the Hor family's patriarch? Wasn't he also a victim? Yes. That is precisely what makes his character so complex. The story deliberately leaves room for uncertainty over whether Qingyu acted intentionally. Yet from Qingyi's perspective, the result remained the same. Whether his brother meant to harm him or not, Qingyu was present every time Qingyi was pushed into another deadly situation. When Hu Mingxi was killed at the banquet, Qingyi was present because Qingyu had invited him. When the Hu family framed and imprisoned Qingyi, the Murong family, including Qingyu, did nothing to protect him. When Qingyi was forced into marriage after his release, Qingyu advised him to accept it. When Susu entered the Murong family under the identity of Fang Mulan, Qingyu was the one who brought her inside. Finally, Qingyu himself was killed on a bridge over the Suzhou River after someone tampered with the brakes of his car. By the time Qingyi understood anything, it was already too late. The Hu family wanted him dead, but at least they never concealed their hostility. His elder brother, however, repeatedly pushed him toward moments that just happened to place his life in danger, all while insisting that it was for his own good. The Hu family was a visible blade. When it struck, Qingyi could at least attempt to avoid it. Qingyu was a blunt blade. Every act of brotherly protection slowly cut into Qingyi's flesh. By the time Qingyi noticed, his hands had been crippled. 3 years of his life had disappeared. The woman he loved had become his future sister-in-law, and he himself had become a discarded piece of the Murong family. Qingyi's tragedy was that he never understood. Why does the claim say that Murong Qing Yi never understood the truth, even before his death? Because when Qingyu was murdered, Qingyi sat in the mourning hall throughout the night, holding his brother's hand. He did not think, "My brother ruined my life." Instead, he remembered that Qingyu had been the only person who treated him kindly after he returned to the Murong family. After Qingyu's death, Qingyi even handed a knife to Qing Jinji and asked her to kill him. He wished he could have died in his brother's place. That was the most devastating part of Qingyi's tragedy. Until his final breath, he lived with gratitude toward his brother. He clung to the belief that Qingyu represented the only genuine affection he had ever received from his family. He never realized that Qingyu's offer to send him away to study medicine was an empty choice intended to make him submit. He never realized that Qingyu's engagement was the crucial step that allowed Susu to enter the Murong family. He never realized that Qingyu's decision to bring him and Susu to Hu Mingxi's banquet was so perfectly timed that it felt almost calculated. Nor did he understand that Qingyu's death was not an accident. It was the inevitable result of the conflict among the Murong, Hua, and Li families. From beginning to end, Qingyi was protected by his brother and guided directly into one deadly trap after another. When the Battle of Shanghai began, Qingyi put on a military uniform and became a field doctor. Susu donated all the property she had brought from the Fang family and established a battlefield medical team. In 1937, as the country faced invasion, Qingyi died together with the villain Zhang Mingxiu, sacrificing his life for the peace and survival of his nation. Even at the moment of his death, he still believed that his elder brother had been a good man. That was the deepest source of Murong Qing Yi's sorrow. The Hu family was his enemy, so he hated them with complete clarity. Qingyu was his brother, so he trusted him without reservation. Yet in the end, it was precisely that absolute trust that led Qingyi to his death. Why the revelation about Qingyu hurts so deeply. The reversal is painful because it destroys one of the simplest beliefs people carry, that blood relatives are safe. Audiences are accustomed to seeing powerful families in Republican-era dramas presented as shelters from the outside world. But Overdo shows the opposite. Qing Jinji used Qingyi as an outlet for the resentment she carried over her husband's death. Li Bo's, the adopted son, was adored by the Murong family, while Qingyi, the true son, was treated as disposable. The only brother who appeared to love him repeatedly pushed him deeper into danger under the guise of protection. Before his death, Murong Feng used Qingyi as a spy against the Li family. Afterward, the blame for his father's death was placed on Qingyi. For Qingyi, the Grand Murong estate was never a home. It was a carefully constructed slaughterhouse. And the knives inside that slaughterhouse were handed to the executioners by his own family. When the Hu family cut the tendons in his hands, the hatred was direct and bloody. Qingyi could hate them without guilt. But when Qingyu smiled gently and said, You are my brother. I will protect you. The blade moved slowly. Qing Yi continued believing that his brother meant well, even while that blade cut deeper into him. Which was more terrifying? The latter. A person can fight an obvious enemy. But when harm is disguised as love, the victim may never even realize that resistance is necessary. Susu's words revealed Qing Yi's true cause of death. The truth returns to the scene in which Susu removed her disguise in the morning hall. She told Qing Yi, "The Hor family, the Li family, and your Murong family were all responsible for burning my family to death." The crucial phrase was, "your Murong family." She did not say, "your Murong family, except for you." She included the family as a whole. The Murong family was one of the main forces behind the destruction of the Ren family. And who controlled the Murong family? Cheng Jinji, Murong Feng, and Murong Qing Yi, the eldest son and heir. Qing Yi had always believed that he was not responsible for the massacre. He saw himself as another innocent victim who had become entangled in the destruction of the Ren family. He was not wrong, but he overlooked one fact. Murong blood flowed through his veins, and the Murong family was Susu's mortal enemy. As the eldest legitimate son, Qing Yi was the direct heir to the Murong family's power and interests. No matter how sincerely he cared for Qing Yi, every act of protection remained rooted in preserving the family. Whenever the interests of the Murong family conflicted with Qing Yi's life, Qing Yi chose the family. When Huo Mingxi died, the Murong family needed the Hor family's military support, so Qing Yi was sacrificed. When Qing Yi was released from prison, the Murong family needed weapons, so he was forced to marry Huo Minxian. When Susu appeared as Fong Mulan, Qing Yi's engagement strengthened the Murong family's alliance with the wealthy Fong family from Southeast Asia. On the Murong family's chessboard, Qing Yi was merely a pawn that could be sacrificed whenever necessary. Qing Yi was the hand that moved that pawn. Qing Yi heard Susu when she said that the Murong family was also responsible, but he failed to understand that the words Murong family included the brother he loved most. The gentian flowers withered, and Qing Yi understood his brother's whine too late. The truth behind the statement that Murong Qing Yi never realized his greatest danger was his elder brother cannot be reduced to the simple claim that Qing Yi was an evil man. Murong Qing Yi may not have been a villain in the traditional sense. He was gentle, refined, and capable of genuine affection for his younger brother. But within the political chessboard of a powerful Republican-era family, sincere affection was the least valuable bargaining chip. When the family's survival, the Murong family's century-old legacy, and the alliance with the Fong family were placed before him, Qing Yi's small share of brotherly warmth could be measured, exchanged, or sacrificed. Qing Yi never saw through it. He walked toward the artillery fire of the Battle of Shanghai in his military uniform and died together with Zhang Linghe. Perhaps even then, he was thinking, if my brother were still alive, he would support my decision. He never knew that when someone tampered with Qing Yi's brakes on the Suzhou River Bridge, Qing Yi was still holding an embroidered Suzhou handkerchief he intended to give Fong Mulan. That may have been the final extension of Qing Yi's protection. He exchanged his own life for a stronger alliance between the Murong and Fong families. His death also pushed Qing Yi completely into Susu's revenge campaign. In the years Susu traveled south carrying Qing Yi's unborn child, the fields of gentian flowers had already withered, and the portrait hidden inside the pocket watch had gathered dust. Perhaps she was the only person who saw every member of the Murong family clearly from beginning to end, including the seemingly gentle and honorable Murong Qing Yi. Murong Qing Yi, however, lived until his final moment inside the warmth of a single promise. "You are my brother. I will protect you." Was Murong Qing Yi fully aware of what he was doing, deliberately calculating every move? Or was he merely an accomplice trapped by the interests of his family? When he interrupted Qing Yi's warning that Fong Mulan was dangerous, did he mean, "I do not believe you"? Or did he mean, "I do not want to hear the rest"?